Or is there something else? Because it also doesn't really totally, and I know exactly what Steve's going to say, but I'm going to say this anyways, it doesn't really account for all of the weird front end stuff. Steve now is going to say, well, Devin, yeah, it does, because it's just somebody trying to be edgy.
No.
That's a possibility.
Well, Devin, it does, because it is somebody trying to hide the portal to their crappy friend's website.
Fair enough. Okay, yeah.
Could be that.
It could, but it's...
The best way to hide something is to surround it by other innocuous-looking garbage. And people just realize, oh, God.
It's a heck of a lot of garbage.
It could be some sort of like virtual clearinghouse for Al-Qaeda operatives, to exchange messages.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, frankly,
I doubt it.
But
they would
that's
pick a more inconspicuous URL, probably.
But that is the point, right? Is that, like, we don't really know. Because it could have been that members-only portal was just a top layer for something else. Do I think that's true? No. Hell no. I think that's dumb. But that is something that we can't for 100% say that there wasn't, and that there weren't more layers to this. Because as we can see, even on what we think is the surface layer, there are more layers underneath that between the surface layer and the members-only layer. Yeah. So who knows what is, like, even deeper than that. Again, I don't think so. I think it's just this guy trying to be, like, edgy and, like, on a lot of drugs, and, like, that's fine, but...
If there was more there, I'm pretty damn sure that hack that mirrored it in 2009 or whatever it was, we would have seen that stuff. Because once you get in, you're in. You know, you peel the onion, and the onions only go so far.
I will say the trick with that is that hack was carried out by other net artists who may or may not have been associated and friends with some of the artists that were members of Hell.com.
Oh, so are you maybe insinuating that this is a fake hack?
Yeah.
What do you mean, Xilinx is a fake hack?
No. The 10010 whatever hack could have been a way to drum up more support or interest or whatever.
That sounds way too organized for this.
I don't know that it is.
I mean, a guy can sit around and very easily just make a couple of HTML pages a week and build this slowly convoluted website, but then to facilitate a fake hack on yourself, and I think that takes a lot of technical savvy that I don't see in the
It was just a mirror.
Of this.
It was just a mirror of the site, which he had been doing all over the place. It was just a mirror of the members-only stuff without login.
Right. Well, but they had gone through the login. That's what I mean. Is that it just, I don't know. It just seems above the ability of what I've seen here for him to have.
I guess all I'm saying is that really all that happened was this group said.
I understand what you're saying.
They literally just said, we got this because we hacked them. They didn't say, like, here's how we hacked into this. Here's how we got this stuff. They were just like, well, we broke in and got it. Here it is. So it would have been really easy for him to just mirror that the members-only pages or whatever, and then have them say, and then you say, okay, now you guys say, well, we hacked it, and that's all it is. I mean, he had been
Somebody
experimenting.
watched the French Connection and decided they'd do it on the internet?
Well, I mean, he'd been experimenting with mirroring sites. We have proof of that, so I don't know.
Yeah, you'd think a typical hacker would be kind of proud of, like, telling us all his techniques and stuff. Yeah.
They tend to be.
Yeah, usually, but no.
Yeah, not
so I don't know. I think that Hell.com is a silly mystery, and I don't know why we covered it, but there you go.
You're missing a theory.
What?
Could it be Satan?
Only if Choopy helped.
I'm sure Choopy's in the mix somewhere, but yeah, I mean...
That might explain the really bad coding.
True.
Yeah, you might think, you would think that Satan would have a webpage, don't you think?
I think it's Satan.com.
Or it's Microsoft, but... I don't know. Just kidding, Microsoft. I love you guys.
Something like that, probably,
yeah. There goes that spot.
Oh, no, I know what it is. It's CenturyLink.com. That's it. Yeah.
Xfinity.com.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I think that's how I feel. I don't know how you guys feel about this mystery, but I think it's kind of a non-mystery.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think it's actually a mystery. I think that it's a tale.
But here's what I will say is that I only came to the conclusion of it not being a mystery by doing a ton of research about it. You know what I mean?
But it's not a mystery, so we really need to cancel this and do another mystery. Okay. So hold on, everybody. We'll be right back.
Hey, guys. Welcome to another episode of Thinking Sideways. That would be miserable.
All right. What else you got?
That's it.
All right. Thank goodness.
Do you guys have any input in that stuff?
I'm just going to say hell a few more times.
Okay,
like,
cool.
Hell no, I got nothing more.
Great.
What the hell have we been doing this whole time?
So if you want to see that logo, and for whatever reason it's not pulling into your feed, if you want to see some of the links that we have that we did research on, if you want to buy merch, if you want to download the episodes, you can head to our website. That website is thinkingsidewayspodcast.com.
Ta-da!
You can find us on social media. We've got the Facebook page and the group, so like the page, join the group. We have a Twitter, which is Thinking Sideways, and we also have a subreddit, which is Thinking Sideways. Easy. Not as dead as it has been. We got almost 50 comments on the last post, so there you go.
Whoa, I gotta go out and look at
crazy.
that.
It's
I
pretty
missed
good.
That one.
You probably know where you're finding us, where you're streaming us, but you can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Stitcher. You can find Steve is nodding. You can find us pretty much anywhere.
Google
if you
Play.
can find us, and you don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to leave a comment and a rating as well. That really helps people find us, which is really helpful to us.
That's a good idea.
Yep.
A nice rating. Yes, please.
And if you want to talk to us about our explicit use of the word hell in this episode.
Sorry about that, by the way.
Why the hell would they want to do that?
I don't know, man. Or if you have any suggestions, comments, concerns, anything, you can send us an email. The email address is thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. We will respond to every email, almost every email. Eventually. It's been taking us about a week, but we're going to do it.
Time.
A hell of a long
We're
time.
a little backed up right now.
Yeah.
We're catching up.
All of that having been said, I think we're going to get on out of here.
Get the hell out of here?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll see you in hell.
Hell yeah.
Heck.
Thinking Sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Thinking Sideways, the podcast that solves unsolvable mysteries.
That's right.
Wait,
That doesn't work if
It
they're
works.
unsolvable.
nope, we solve them anyways.
Okay.
Yep. This week, I'm sorry, I'm Devin. In case you haven't met us before, I'm Devin, joined,
I'm Joe.
I'm Steve.
and we're going to talk about a mystery. It was a listener suggestion from Bill on Facebook. Thanks, Bill. And we're going to call this one, What's the Frequency, Kenneth?
Really?
That's an okay name for it, right?
I would say that's appropriate name for it.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. On October 4th, 1986, Dan Rather was walking home in New York City when a man ran up behind him and punched him in the back of the head, which knocked him to the ground, not floor, and started beating him a little bit. And the man who attacked him demanded, "What's the frequency, Kenneth?" Or, "Kenneth, what's the frequency?"
I've heard it both
Reports
ways.
differ. Yeah.
Yeah.
As Rather ran, apparently a second man ran after him and continued to try and attack him. Rather ran into a hotel or apartment building
Yeah, I'm
lobby.
pretty sure it was an apartment.
And I guess fell to the ground and was kicked a number of times before an employee of the apartment complex was able to kind of break the fight up, and the man ran away and wasn't caught. But both men continued to demand throughout the entire beating what they wanted to know what the frequency was from Dan Rather. Weird, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a very weird thing to continually yell
Yeah.
or ask.
Yeah.
But, actually, if you want an excuse to continue the beating, you do want to be asking an unanswerable question.
Yeah, you kind of do.
Yeah, so.
I'm just trying to beat the thing out of you. If you would just tell me the answer.
Yeah, I'd gladly stop.
I'll just
Boot,
stop.
boot, boot.
Yeah. I can't imagine that people don't know who Dan Rather is, but I guess we do have a number of international listeners. So let's talk about Dan Rather for a minute.
All right.
Yeah? Cool. 31 and led a pretty uninteresting life until breaking into the broadcast journalism world kind of early September 1961 when he did some unconventional reporting on Hurricane Carla. He was the first reporter to ever use weather scanners on TV to explain to people where weather patterns were
A
coming
weather
from.
map that we're
Yeah,
used
the weather
to today.
map.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. they didn't exist. They didn't have the technology to have that on screen, so he actually went to a weather service station and had the camera trained on that to track where Hurricane Carla was going.
Oh, clever.
Granted, he had been a television journalist for a number of years prior to that, but that was kind of his first big claim to fame.
I don't remember when it was, but I know the other notable thing he did is he was one of the reporters that was embedded in Vietnam.
Yeah, he was a war correspondent, and actually that was after he kind of had this rise to fame. He moved to New York City in 1962 and started a trial period at CBS, and apparently he didn't fit in very well, but he did end up covering the crash of American Airlines Flight 1, which was a notable crash with a number of notable people on board that died, and it's a bit of an unsolved mystery, but we'll talk about that
Yeah, we'll solve that one.
later. That's
Just say please tell me we're not going into
No.
that one, because I'm not prepared for that one.
No. That's a mystery for a different time.
Okay.
He also reported on the JFK assassination, which is another huge unsolved mystery for another time.
Until we tackle it.
Until we tackle it, we'll solve it. Don't worry, guys.
Because it's not actually unsolvable.
It's not. We will
Not
solve
really.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dan Rather was assigned to be a White House correspondent for CBS, and then he went on to assignment to Vietnam War, and then he came back and he was assigned the anchor position for CBS Evening News, which is CBS's nightly news segment.
And he also did segments on 60 Minutes also.
Yeah, he did, and he was the anchor on CBS Evening News for 24 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was there forever.
So, and of course, it was from his position at 60 Minutes that his career kind of came to an explosive end about 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
We'll get to that.
That Forged Memo thing, yeah.
You want to talk about that?
We will, because it comes up in the theories.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. We have some interesting theories.
Yeah, I sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I sprung something at the last minute on Devin.
Yeah,
so-
I forgot. I totally forgot that I had that written at the end of my script now.
Yeah.
Anyways, in 1986, this beating happened, and nobody really knew why. Rather was quoted as saying, "I was mugged." He's kind of this very matter-of-fact statement. He says, "I was mugged. I don't know why it happened. I wish I did, but I don't know."
Yeah. Classic mugging, except they didn't take his wallet. But,
They didn't. Yeah, well, that was exactly it. Is none of the reports have any kind of missing items of any kind. It seems like it was
Except a
just
few
beating.
teeth, but I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was maybe his ego. Was
Yeah, I'm
missing
sure.
a
A
little
little
bit.
bruised.
Yeah. A few years later, Dan Rather did identify the man who had been beating him. It gets a little weird in here for me because in all of the reports I've read, there were two men.
These are the reports from the year it happened.
From the year it happened, there were two men. And then a couple years later, this other man that I'm about to talk about was arrested. And Dan Rather said, "Oh yeah, that was the one guy who was beating me." There's no mention of, "Oh, but there was a second guy who started it," or anything like that. It's just, yeah, that was the guy.
Yeah,
He did it.
some reports I've heard, it was just one guy beating him, and then the other guy just kind of stood by.
Yeah, but there were two men involved.
Yeah.
And, anyways, it gets...
Yeah, the
it-
second
so it
man
gets a little-
disappears.
He definitely disappears from the lore, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit in a minute, too. But this man's name was William Tagger.
And that was in 94 when he was identified, too.
Yes.
Too.
And you may be familiar with that name if you're a weirdo about murders or anything. I don't know, some of our listeners might be into that sort of stuff.
They're not weirdos. They're just interested in random, unexplained murders.
Maybe. It's not,
Unprovoked.
well, except, yeah, unprovoked is a better word, because
Yes.
this murder was actually explained.
It was pretty
Yeah.
random and stupid.
Yeah, in 1994, Tagger attempted to enter the set of The Today Show with a gun. He had like a rifle strapped to his back, and he tried to enter, and the security guard said no, so he got in his car and drove away, and then came back with a rifle and tried to gain entrance again when one of the men who was on the crew of the Today Show named Campbell Theron Montgomery, which is the USA version of a Game of Thrones name.
Really?
What?
Is it?
It is? I don't watch that show or read books.
You guys are the worst. Anyways, Tagger shot Campbell
In the back.
in the back a few times
As he was running away.
as he was running away and trying to alert the police, and Campbell died, and Tagger was arrested. Tagger was convicted and sentenced in 1996. He was denied parole when he first came up for it in 2007, but he was released in 2010, and I
Yeah.
think he lives in New York
Yeah, and Dan Rather hasn't been seen since.
That's not true.
I know.
Here's, are you, tell me, Devin, we can save it if it comes up later, but did you want to go into his motivations for that? Or had you intended to?
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that in the
Okay, because there's some very strange WTF moments in his accounts of why he did that. So I just want to make sure.
Oh yeah, in no uncertain terms, Taggart was a crazy person.
He
still is.
Okay, all right, just check it.
But
or perhaps a person from another parallel
or
universe.
maybe something else is going on. But
Yeah.
even that, you kind of can say he's crazy.
Yeah.
So that, I know we usually talk for like an hour about what happened and then briefly talk about theories. But
Not a lot happened in this case.
Not a lot happened, so we're gonna talk about theories.
Yeah.
Oh wait, are you warning our listeners that it's going to be a short show?
Well, I don't think it's gonna be short. It'll be shorter than last week's.
Let's talk really
goodness for that.
slow.
Okay, opposite.
Let's all
Yeah.
talk like Steve.
Yeah.
Let's all talk.
So one thing I wanted to mention is that Rather found out about it through Taggart's psychiatrist, correct? Because he was forced to see a psychiatrist
Found out about
after
what?
the murder. After the murder, and then that's when Taggart told his psychiatrist that he was in '86.
Reportedly.
Yeah. And so that
Yes.
that is how he found out, is from the psychiatrist.
I have heard that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I do want to raise a red flag on that though, because I know that there's a limit to patient-client confidentiality, and I know that like if you're going to do harm or you've done a heinous crime, that doesn't apply. But
Yeah.
beating the crap out of a news anchor doesn't seem to qualify for violating that.
Really? I'm
Yeah.
not so sure. I mean, it was a
'Cause
crime.
Well, but it's also way outside of the statute of limitations.
Well,
that.
I think that we can kind of go into this now. We, as a community group team, Sideways, found the transcripts from the parole hearings
Oh, yeah.
for Taggart, and Dan Rather isn't mentioned anywhere.
No, not at all.
In there, and one would think if they had decided or he had admitted to that attack, that would come up because it was a pretty brutal attack.
Yeah, but he didn't confess it to the police.
He
so
did
he
not.
Only told his
So
psychiatrist.
that's kind of. I agree with Steve. I have some questions about whether or not he ever admitted that he did this.
Or if it was just a psychiatrist trying to get a bump in his popularity for some reason or whatever it may be.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when Rather was shown a picture of Taggart, he identified him as being the guy who did it.
And when?
Yeah, but it
what year
wasn't-
was he shown the photo? Was it 94, 95?
I'm not sure, but it would have been at the earliest 94.
Okay, that's 8 to 10 years later.
Yeah.
I got a question.
You've seen pictures of Taggart, right? I mean, he's not the most unique looking.
He's
man.
kind of an odd looking guy, but he's not super unique. No, so
Yeah.
that's why I question how Rather so instantly said, "That's the guy."
But also,
Yeah.
it's not documented under what process he was shown the picture. Was if it was in a lineup under kind of police supervision or professional supervision, or if the psychiatrist or psychologist was saying, "Oh yeah, this guy said he beat you up," and Dan Rather looked at it and said, "That kind of looks like him. That probably was him." You know, we don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly. Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to bring
think
up.
that's an important thing to keep in mind as well. So, with that short introduction to this show,
Now we're really going to the theories.
we're really going to theories.
All right, cool.
The first theory ends with a sentence. I swear to God, Joe did not come up with this theory,
Uh-huh.
but he very easily could have. So let's get into that. As we mentioned, Dan Rather was assaulted kind of outside of and then in the entryway of an apartment building, and that somebody who worked there did kind of step in and stop
his
the whole
behind.
thing. Yeah. And, you know, most people kind of think that this was just a case of mistaken identity, that somebody, the people who started beating Dan Rather up thought that he was somebody he wasn't, which is fair.
It's possible.
It's possible. It was kind of in the middle of his meteoric rise to fame, but I guess if you don't watch the news.
People get beat up for all kinds of reasons and get into trouble for mistaken identities all the time.
Yeah.
Sure.
The other thing that this theory relies heavily on is that Dan Rather was hit in the head and he was being beaten up, and that it's totally possible that he misunderstood what the men were yelling at him.
Or misremembered.
Or misremembered.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
According to this theory, the